My name is Ethan Hayes, and thanks to a nightmare, I've discovered I might be the miserable protagonist in a trashy, cliché affair novel. The morning sun sliced through the blinds, casting a dappled pattern on the hardwood floors. The air was thick with the rich aroma of pour-over coffee and the sizzle of bacon in a cast-iron skillet. I was focused on flipping an egg, trying to achieve the perfect sunny side up. A pair of soft arms wrapped around my waist from behind. The familiar scent of her hair, that white tea shampoo Sophia loved, filled my senses. "What's on the menu today, Chef Ethan?" Her voice was husky with sleep, her cheek pressing into my back as she nuzzled against me. I killed the heat and slid the perfect egg onto a plate with a spatula. "Your favorite. Bacon and eggs, plus some toast." I forced a smile and turned to pinch her cheek. "Go get washed up before I eat it all." Captain," Sophia chirped, standing on her toes to give me a quick peck on the lips before skipping off toward the bathroom. Watching her cheerful retreat, the smile on my face slowly solidified, then crumbled. A fine, sharp pain pricked in my chest. Everything was as warm and wonderful as usual. Except for me. Last night, I'd had a nightmare. A terrifyingly real one. I dreamed that our life was nothing but a story, a dime store betrayal novel with a tired plot. And I, Ethan Hayes, was the pathetic cheated-on husband. My beloved wife, Sophia, was the star of the show, the woman who would throw everything away for some pretty boy. The dream began in our warm, comfortable home. No, it wasn't our home anymore. The prints we'd picked out together were gone from the walls, replaced by a piece of cold, jarring modern art I'd never seen before. Sophia was sitting on the sofa, right underneath it. She was in loungewear, but her makeup was flawless, and the look she gave me was as cold as ice. Beside her sat a boy who, at first glance, seemed bright and cheerful, but I could immediately see the smugness and mockery in his eyes. His name was Liam. I didn't even know how that name popped into my head, but I just knew. The man, this Liam, was peeling an apple with the triumphant air of a conqueror. He sliced off a piece and held it to Sophia's lips. She opened her mouth without a second thought, accepting his offering. She didn't even look at me, as if I were just some intrusive stranger who'd wandered into her house. I heard my own voice, ragged and hoarse. "Sophia, what is he doing in our house?" She finally looked up, her eyes laced with impatience. "Ethan, can you please try to be mature? Liam's all alone out here, trying to make it. It's not easy for him, so I told him he could stay with us." Liam smiled, a smirk full of provocation. Then his expression softened, and he put on a pitiful act. "Sophia, you don't have to do this. I know I'm imposing. I don't want my being here to affect your relationship with Ethan." He stood up, walked over to me, and said in a voice just loud enough for me to hear, "Ethan, man, I'm sorry. It's my fault you misunderstood. Sophia was just worried about me living alone. Don't overthink it. I'll leave right now." He said he'd leave, but his feet were planted on the floor like they'd grown roots. It was Sophia who shot up, shielding him like a mother hen protecting her chick. "Liam, you don't have to listen to him. I bought this house. A freeloader like him has no right to kick my people out." Behind Sophia, Liam's smirk widened, dripping with silent mockery. Blood rushed to my head. "Ethan, stop acting crazy. You're embarrassing me. There's nothing left between us. Haven't you felt it?" She pulled a file from under the coffee table and threw it in front of me. "Divorce papers." My lawyer drew them up. "Sign them, then get the hell out. I don't want to see a vindictive man like you ever again." My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain making it impossible to breathe. "Don't forget, you're the one who chased me. And now I'm an embarrassment to you? Huh." I let out a cold laugh, grabbed a pen, and signed my name. Then I turned and walked away. The moment I stepped out the door, the agony was so intense I could barely draw a breath. Just then, I shot upright in bed, drenched in a cold sweat. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I gasped for air like I just clawed my way out of deep water. The moonlight was bright outside, and the bedroom was so quiet I could only hear the frantic thumping of my own heart. I turned my head and looked at Sophia beside me. She was sound asleep, her long lashes casting a faint shadow on her cheek. She looked peaceful and lovely, an angelic face I'd never tired of looking at for 8 years. From the girl in a white dress on our college campus to the CEO running a publicly traded company, she had always been the same Sophia. The one who would get excited for half a day over a little app one built, the one who would clumsily make me a pot of soup when I was sick. She'd been with me through the toughest days of my startup, more thrilled than I was when I landed my first big contract. She came from money, a genuine blue blood family. When she chose to marry me, a software engineer from a middle-class background, it had dropped jaws all over town. Everyone said I must have saved the world in a past life. I thought so too. How else could I have been lucky enough to meet a girl like her? How could a woman like that betray me for some intern who appeared out of nowhere? It was impossible. Absolutely impossible. I told myself over and over that it was just a ridiculous dream. But every detail, Liam's smug face, Sophia's icy stare, felt as vivid as if I'd lived it. The pain and humiliation of being betrayed by the person I loved most, of having everything stripped away, still coiled in my chest, refusing to leave. Just like the novel in my head said, I was the classic loser protagonist. My entire purpose was to be cheated on, which would then trigger some kind of power-up. Either I'd go dark and get revenge, or I'd stage a massive comeback. And Sophia was the clueless heroine, blinded by infatuation, mistaking a worthless pebble for a diamond. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to force the absurd thoughts from my head. Ethan. Sophia rolled over, her eyes fluttering open. She reached out, her warm, sleepy hand resting on my forehead. What's wrong? You're sweating. My heart seized, and my body went rigid. It's nothing. Just a bad dream. I squeezed out a smile that felt worse than crying. She immediately sat up, leaning closer, her eyes full of concern. Is work getting to you? Maybe we should get out of town this weekend. Looking at her worried expression, hearing her gentle voice, my insides twisted into a knot. Logic and emotion were at war in my head. On one side, 8 years of a real, loving marriage. On the other, that terrifyingly real, prophetic nightmare. Really, it's fine. It was a stupid dream, I said, pulling her into my arms, my chin resting on the top of her head. Go back to sleep. It's not even dawn yet. You too, then. She snuggled against my chest, found a comfortable spot, planted a soft kiss on my cheek, and closed her eyes again. I held her warm, soft body, but sleep was now the furthest thing from my mind. The nightmare became a secret I buried deep inside, one I refused to speak aloud. Days passed, and the ridiculous nightmare began to fade. At night, I'd intentionally replay memories of meeting Sophia, as if to reassure myself. The first time I saw her in college, she was wearing a white dress, standing under a sycamore tree as sunlight dappled her shoulders. Back then, I was just another comp-sci major, and she was already a big shot in student government. We were from two different worlds. She was the one who spoke to me first. Excuse me, can you help me with my laptop? She'd asked, holding it in her arms, a smile on her face that was impossible to refuse. As I worked on it, she sat right next to me, asking occasional tech questions. Looking back, they were incredibly basic, but she asked them with such earnestness, listening intently. After a while, I realized her laptop wasn't broken at all. The power cord just wasn't plugged in all the way. Why did you lie to me? I asked. Because I wanted to meet you, she'd replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. From that day on, she became a color in my life. For 4 years of college, she stayed up with me while I coded, and I kept her company during late-night student government meetings. After graduation, she took over her family's business, and I became a programmer at a tech firm. Two seemingly parallel lives, woven together by love. On our wedding day, she stood before me in her white gown and said, Ethan, we're going to grow old together. How could that Sophia ever betray me? It was just a dream, a completely absurd dream. I kept telling myself that. Until tonight. At dinner, Sophia was unusually excited, her eyes sparkling with a light I hadn't seen in a long time. While eating the braised short ribs I'd made, she chattered on and on about work. You won't believe it. We got a new intern today, a comp-sci major. The kid's a genius. She put down her fork, gesturing animatedly. He's young, but he's brilliant. And one morning, he solved a project proposal issue that's been driving me crazy for weeks. I kept my head down, trying to seem casual as I ate. Oh, really? And he's cute, too. Like a clean-cut, boy-next-door kind of cute. Sophia's excitement grew. And he's so well-spoken, really polite. He calls me Sophia, but in this really earnest way, you know? It's kind of funny. My heart clenched. This was it. This was the moment from the dream, the first time we fought because of Liam. What's his name? I tried to keep my voice steady. Sophia grinned, even wider. His name is Liam Vance. He's a little prodigy. Liam Vance. The two words struck me like a bolt of lightning, shattering all my internal defenses. My blood ran cold as every detail from the nightmare flooded back. The handsome young Liam, the sparkle in Sophia's eyes, and her final, indifferent gaze. No, it couldn't be. It was a coincidence. Just a name. But why? Why did her eyes light up like that when she talked about him? Is that so? I heard my own voice, laced with an acidity I tried to suppress. All the geniuses are running off to be your interns now. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. That wasn't me. I was never the type to make bitter, sarcastic remarks, but just slipped out beyond my control. Worse, it was the exact line from my dream. My heart started to race, my palms growing slick with sweat. It's happening. The story is starting. In the nightmare, this was the trigger. I'd say that line, and Sophia would freeze, her expression turning to ice. She'd accuse me of being petty, demand to know why I didn't trust her. Then we would have the biggest fight of our lives. She'd storm out and go to Liam for comfort. My heart plummeted into an icy abyss. I stared at Sophia, feeling like in the next second, I would lose her forever. But Sophia's reaction, after a brief pause, was completely unexpected. She didn't get angry. She just blinked, set down her fork, and looked at me with an amused curiosity. A second later, she leaned in and playfully pinched my cheek. Well, did someone fall into a vat of vinegar? You sound sour, Mr. Hayes, she said with a laugh, her voice full of affection and teasing. Her fingers were warm, smelling faintly of hand cream. Her smile was the one I knew so well, her eyes brimming with love for me. I was completely stunned. This wasn't the script. In the dream, Sophia was supposed to get angry, give me the cold shoulder, and question my trust. But the real Sophia was laughing, lovingly pinching my cheek, and disarming my anxiety the way she always did. I'm not jealous, I stammered, my face burning under her touch. No, she tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Then why the sour grapes? I thought my big baby was having a moment. She was acting just like she did when we first started dating. Back then, she'd always tease me, calling me a stoic, saying she loved to see me blush. I was just talking, I said, avoiding her gaze. Fear and confusion warred inside me, but I couldn't stop myself from adding, I could have helped you with any tech problems. Why didn't you ask me? Sophia burst into a wider grin. She stood up, walked over, and squeezed herself into my lap like a cat, wrapping her arms around my neck. Her brow was arched, her nose almost touching mine. Are you suggesting that the CEO and chief engineer of Stellar Solutions, one of the hottest new tech companies in the industry, should come solve a minor project issue for one of Sterling Corp's divisions? An issue an intern could handle. Her voice was laced with mock astonishment. When did my company get so important? My face flushed a deep red. That's not what I meant. I couldn't finish because Sophia's soft lips silenced me. It was our little ritual, a confirmation of our love, a balm for any insecurity. A warm current flowed through me, but with it came a deeper confusion. The script had changed. What did that mean? The scene from the dream didn't happen, but her admiration for Liam was real. She had called him a genius, and I'd seen the light in her eyes. That light was admiration, excitement, the joy of discovering something interesting. I knew that admiration was real, and that knowledge kept a thorn of unease lodged deep in my heart. Sophia, I said, her name is Soft Breath. She looked up at me. Do you think there could ever be a problem with us? I asked, voicing my deepest fear. Sophia cupped my face, looking at me seriously. Ethan, what's wrong with you? You've been acting so strange lately. Is work really stressing you out this much? I wanted to tell her about the dream, to pour out all my fear. But the words caught in my throat. What would I say? That I had a dream you cheated on me, and now I'm acting like a paranoid lunatic, monitoring your every move? It was too ridiculous. It's nothing. I guess work is just getting to me, I said with a forced smile. Sophia didn't press. She just hugged me tighter. Ethan, whatever happens, we have to talk about it, okay? Don't let things fester in your head alone. Her embrace was warm, filled with the scent I knew and loved. Okay, I nodded, but the shadows in my heart hadn't completely vanished. The script had changed, but Liam Vance had appeared. Was the dream still going to come true? The next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize. I had several important projects on my plate, but I couldn't focus. Whenever I sat down at my computer, the name Liam Vance would inevitably drift into my thoughts. I started doing things I would never have done before, like reaching out to Mark, a senior manager in Sophia's IT department. Mark was an old friend from college. I invited him out for coffee under the pretext of talking shop. Any new projects over on Sophia's end? I asked, trying to sound casual. Mark set down his cup, a sly look in his eye. What's this, Ethan? Keeping tabs on the wife. Just asking, I said, feeling a little embarrassed. Well, there's this incredibly sharp intern, Liam Vance. Mark's expression grew more complicated. Kid's got skills, I'll give him that. Serious technical chops. And he knows how to play the game. My heart tightened. What do you mean, play the game? Mark lowered his voice. You know how Sophia never takes sugar in her coffee, right? The kid remembered that on day 2. Now he brings her a fresh pour-over every morning, no sugar. Claims it's some special brewing technique he learned working part-time at a coffee shop. My blood felt like it was turning to ice. That detail, it was exactly the same as in the dream. And the kid's got an eye for opportunity, Mark continued. Yesterday, Sophia was in a conference room stressing over a technical plan. He just happened to be walking by, overheard, and offered this really creative solution. Sophia called him a genius right on the spot. Happened to be walking by. I struggled to keep my voice from trembling. Yeah, what a coincidence, right? Mark shook his head. To be honest, it rubs some of us old-timers the wrong way. And in turn, getting that much attention, my hand holding the coffee cup started to shake. Every single detail matched the dream. Every move Liam made was as if he were following a script. Ethan, you okay? You look a little pale, Mark asked with concern. I'm fine. Just been stressed with work lately. I managed forcing a smile. That evening, Sophia came home an hour later than usual. The moment she walked in, she started gushing about her day. You won't believe it. Liam was a huge help again today. She dropped her bag, her eyes shining. We were stuck on a new app's interface design. Couldn't find a breakthrough. Then Liam proposed this totally fresh concept. It was a real light bulb moment. I sat on the sofa, pretending to watch TV, but all my attention was on her. He said the idea came from a project he did in school. It's hard to imagine a kid who hasn't even graduated having such a sharp business sense. Sophia kicked off her heels, her bare feet sinking into the rug. Mark and the others are all saying Liam is practically tailor-made for our company. My heart sank even further. What else did they say? It was pretty funny, actually. Sophia came over and leaned against my shoulder. Mark was joking that Liam is obviously trying to hit on me. Said something about how fearless young guys are these days, even going after the boss. My body went completely rigid. And what did you say to that? I told them to stop gossiping, Sophia said, laughing as she poked my cheek. Liam's just a kid, almost 10 years younger than us. Besides, a guy that talented will have plenty of pretty young girls after him in the future. Her tone was light, but I heard something in it I'd never heard before. A flicker of vanity from being admired by someone younger, a sense of satisfaction from being recognized by a talented person. Sophia, I said, turning to look at her. She blinked, her eyes still holding the glow from her talk about Liam. Have you ever, after being married for so long, felt like life is a little boring? I asked, treading carefully. Sophia paused, then reached up to feel my forehead. Ethan, what is with you today? You keep asking these strange questions. I just want to know what you think. She was quiet for a moment before answering seriously. Ethan, we've been married for years. Of course, we don't have that same intense passion we had when we were first dating. But I think that's normal. Love is supposed to evolve into other things. My heart dropped. Other things? Like what? Like family, like a deep understanding of each other, like a shared vision for the future. Her hand gently caressed my cheek. Ethan, are you sure you're okay? You've been overthinking everything lately. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. To me, her words sounded like a justification for a future betrayal. Love evolving into family. Is that even love anymore? The following week was a special kind of hell. I was possessed, constantly digging for information about Liam's performance at the company through any channel I could find. And every piece of news deepened my fear. Liam would volunteer to stay late and help when Sophia worked overtime. He would appear at just the right moment with a hot cup of tea when she was tired. He would provide the perfect solution whenever she hit a technical snag. Everything was unfolding exactly as it had in the nightmare. What terrified me most were the changes in Sophia when she came home. She started bringing up Liam constantly, her eyes always shining with that light I hadn't seen in a long time. It was the pleasure of being admired, the satisfaction of feeling her own allure again. She was still the same gentle, considerate Sophia. She still made me breakfast, gave me a massage when I was exhausted, and kissed me good night before we slept. But I could feel something shifting quietly, subtly. For instance, she started paying more attention to her appearance. She used to wear comfortable loungewear at home, but now she being something more put together. She started looking in the mirror more often, carefully fixing her makeup before leaving the house. She would casually mention things from her youth, sighing about how fast time flies. The changes were minute. If I wasn't watching her like a hawk, I might not have even noticed. But for me, a man consumed by fear, every tiny shift was another confirmation that the nightmare was coming true. The worst part was realizing that I was following the dream script, too. I became quiet, sensitive, and suspicious. Whenever Sophia mentioned Liam, I couldn't stop myself from making a sour comment. Whenever she was late, I couldn't help but wonder if she was with him. I was becoming the pathetic, unlikable protagonist for my dream. But Sophia's reaction remained different from the dream. Faced with my strange behavior, she didn't get angry or distant. Instead, she treated me with even more tenderness. She would hug me when I was silent, patiently comfort me when I showed my anxiety, and use her playful charm to diffuse the tension when I made a sarcastic remark. She was fighting, in her own way, to hold our relationship together. But I couldn't shake the fear inside me, because I was terrified that this was just the calm before the storm. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, watching Sophia remove her makeup in the bathroom. In the mirror, she was still beautiful. Even at her age, time had only added a layer of mature grace. But I felt like I was losing my mind. For days, I had been debating whether to just confront her, to tell her about my fear, about the absurd dream, about my worries over Liam. I was even prepared to make an unreasonable demand: fire him. The thought made me laugh at myself. On what grounds? Because I had a bad dream? Wouldn't that just disappoint her? But my fear had already crushed my reason. Every time I saw the light in her eyes when she mentioned Liam, every time I heard her casually praise him, I felt the nightmare creeping closer to reality. Sophia came out of the bathroom wearing a silk nightgown, her hair still slightly damp. She slipped into bed and curled up against my chest. "Ethan, why are you having so much trouble sleeping lately?" she asked, looking up at me, her beautiful eyes filled with concern. This was my chance. I took a deep breath, ready to say the words that had been stuck in my throat for so long, ready to tell her that I didn't want her getting close to Liam, that the young man's intentions weren't pure. Even if she thought I was being irrational, even if she got angry or confused, I had to say it. "Sophia, there's something I need to tell you." I started, but my words were cut off by the glow of her phone screen. It was past 11 at night. Who would be texting at this hour? Sophia picked up her phone. I caught a glimpse of the sender's name, Liam. My heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. Here it is. This is it. This is the turning point from the nightmare. The late night, soul-bearing confession. I didn't even need to see the message to know what it said. It would be some sob story about his unfortunate family, some angsty monologue about his uncertain future, capped off with something like, "You're the only person who makes me feel any warmth." It was a classic move. Play the victim to win sympathy, then build an exclusive emotional connection. In my dream, Sophia had seen that message, and her maternal instincts had gone into overdrive. She had waited for me to fall asleep, then secretly slipped out to comfort a child. She opened the message, and her brow furrowed slightly. That look, was it sympathy? Pity? My heart felt like it was being sawed apart with a dull knife. The pain was suffocating. Of course, it was all happening just like the dream. She was starting to feel sorry for the poor young man. The words I had prepared died on my lips. What was the point? The script was already playing out. A profound exhaustion washed over me, not from lack of sleep, but from despair. I loved Sophia, and it was because I loved her that the thought of losing her was so agonizing. But the look on her face as she read Liam's text made me feel like a clown, a pitiful fool, kept in the dark, forced to pretend I knew nothing. After reading the message, Sophia didn't reply right away. She put her phone aside and turned to hug me. "Let's get some sleep. You have work tomorrow," she said, her voice soft and gentle. But I could hear a subtle, deliberate attempt to cover up her distraction. Her embrace was still warm, but I felt a distance. In the dream, she had said the exact same thing. Then, when I was asleep, she had slipped on a coat and left. I closed my eyes, pretending to drift off, but every nerve was on high alert. I was waiting for her to get up, waiting for the nightmare to truly begin. The minutes ticked by. Sophia's breathing grew even and steady. She seemed to have genuinely fallen asleep. I cautiously opened my eyes just a crack. She was lying peacefully beside me, her hand resting unconsciously on my chest. There was no sign of her getting up. I froze. This was wrong. In the dream, she should have been gone by now. The script had deviated again. I kept up the act, staying perfectly still until I was sure Sophia was deeply asleep. She didn't move all night. The next morning, Sophia got up for work as usual. I pretended to still be asleep, watching her every move. After she finished getting ready, she picked up her phone and seemed to be typing a reply. My heart was in my throat again. When she went to the kitchen to make breakfast, I quickly grabbed her phone. Liam's text from last night was long, just as I predicted. "Sophia, sorry to bother you so late. I just got off the phone with my family, and I'm feeling a little down. I just needed to talk to someone. You know, my parents divorced when I was young, and my grandma, who raised me, passed away 2 years ago. I feel so alone sometimes. Coming to this new city, if I hadn't met a great boss like you, I don't know what I would have done. Sometimes I feel like you're the only person who shows me any warmth or kindness. Thank you for everything. I know I'm just an intern and I shouldn't be taking up your time, but I really don't have anyone else to talk to. Reading it made my stomach turn. You're the only person who shows me any warmth. I don't have anyone else to talk to, as if Sophia was his personal savior. With a trembling finger, I opened Sophia's reply. Focus on your work. Young people shouldn't overthink things. Not getting enough rest will affect your performance. That was it. Just one sentence. It was short, professional, and full of distance. There was no comfort, no sympathy, and certainly no flood of maternal instinct. This was nothing like the dream. In the nightmare, Sophia's response to Liam's sob story had been a long, comforting message, full of sympathy for his plight and promises that he could talk to her anytime. But her real reply was so detached, it could have been to any random subordinate. I read the text several times, making sure I wasn't mistaken. A complex mix of emotions washed over me. Relief, confusion, and a sliver of hope I didn't dare fully embrace. Maybe the nightmare was just a dream after all. Maybe my Sophia wouldn't be fooled by Liam's act. Ethan, breakfast is ready. Sophia's voice from the kitchen snapped me out of my thoughts. I quickly put the phone back where I found it and went to get ready. At the table, Sophia served me oatmeal and sprinkled pepper on my eggs, just the way I like it. How did you sleep last night? She asked while eating. Okay, I said, then decided to test the waters. Your phone went off late last night. Was it work? Sophia paused for a second, then shook her head. It was Liam. Sent a text about some family stuff. Her tone was completely neutral, showing no particular emotion. Is he having some kind of trouble? I probed further. Not really trouble. Just young people being dramatic, Sophia said, taking a sip of her coffee. Probably just homesick. She spoke about it as casually as she would discuss the weather. There was none of the gushing sympathy from the dream. A huge weight seemed to lift from my shoulders. So what did you say to him? Just told him to focus on his work and not to overthink things. She glanced at me. Ethan, why are you so interested in my company's business all of a sudden? I felt a little awkward. Just asking. Sophia reached out and touched my forehead. You've been really weird lately, always asking these strange questions. What's really on your mind? Looking into her concerned eyes, I felt the fear inside me start to recede. Maybe I really had been overthinking it. The Sophia in front of me was nothing like the one in the dream. This was the woman I loved. I smiled and took her hand. I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about you. I just think that kids these days can be complicated, especially when they're just starting their careers. They'll do anything to get ahead. You're too trusting. I'm worried you'll get taken for a ride. Sophia stared at me, then broke into a laugh. Ethan, what are you thinking? I've been running this company for years. I'm not going to be fooled by some kid. But if you don't like him, I'll just fire him. Seriously, what have you been worrying about all this time? You're losing sleep over something so small? Where's the confidence of tech CEO? Her eyes curved into crescents, not a hint of anger in them. They were filled with that unique, adoring tenderness she reserved only for me, as if we were still in the honeymoon phase of our relationship. It made my heart skip a beat. I quickly looked down at my plate, focusing on my food. Even after all these years, she could still effortlessly make my world spin. My fear slowly dissipated. Hearing her talk so casually about firing Liam, I suddenly felt how ridiculous my anxiety had been. My Sophia was never a woman who could be easily deceived. She had her own judgment, a deep commitment to our love, and she cherished what we had built together. You don't have to fire him, I said, squeezing her hand. I trust you. Sophia blinked, a flash of surprise in her eyes that quickly melted into a relieved smile. Now that's the Ethan I know. She leaned in and planted a kiss on my cheek. I was starting to think you were going to be suspicious forever. I ducked my head, ashamed of how I'd been acting. However, the next evening, when Sophia came home, she had a strange, unreadable expression on her face. She sank into the sofa and sat in silence for so long, I thought she might not speak at all. Ethan, she finally said, her voice a little hoarse. Liam, I fired him today. My heart seized, as if clamped in an invisible fist. Why? What happened? Sophia looked up, her gaze complex as it settled on my face. He confessed to me today. Of course. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Liam had finally shown his true colors. What did he say? I heard my own voice, trembling with a pressure I couldn't contain. Sophia took a deep breath, her expression shifting as she recalled the scene. He said he loved me, that the first time he saw me, he was captivated by my intelligence and beauty. That being with me made him feel a passion he'd never known before. My fist clenched at my sides, knuckles turning white. And then he said, Sophia's voice faltered for a second, as if she were mimicking Liam's tone. Sophia, I know this is wrong, but I can't help caring for you, loving you. I don't want to break up your family. I just want to give you a safe and happy place outside of your home. And then, ha ha. Right then, Sophia, who had been trying to stay serious, completely lost it. She grabbed a pillow and collapsed on the sofa, roaring with laughter like a little girl who just pulled off a successful prank. A lovely blush spread across her cheeks. You have no idea how awkward it is to be confessed to by a guy 7 or 8 years younger than you with lines straight out of cheesy daytime soap opera. I felt like my toes were trying to dig a new basement under the office building from the secondhand embarrassment. Her laughter was crisp and clear, like a gust of wind that instantly blew away the dark clouds that had been gathering in my heart. I couldn't help but start laughing too. I sat down next to her and pulled her soft body into my arms. Well, that just proves how charming my wife is. As our laughter subsided, Sophia grew quiet in my arms. She looked up at me, her expression turning incredibly serious, as if she'd made a profound decision. She cupped my face with both hands and said, gently but clearly, "Honey, I'm sorry." I admit it. When he first showed up, I was, for a moment, captivated. He just acted so much like you did when you were young. Bright, ambitious, with this endearing nerdy streak. If it weren't for that, I never would have been fooled by his cheap, obvious tactics for so long. I didn't see it for what it was until he sent that text. But regardless, I did develop a crush on the idea of him. I'm sorry. I feel like I have to be honest with you about that. She finished speaking, and her body trembled slightly, as if she was afraid of my reaction. But I knew, very clearly, that it wasn't love, Sophia continued. Because I know where my home is. I know where my heart is. Suddenly, my fear felt so pathetic. I was afraid of losing Sophia, but I hadn't trusted her love for me. I had believed in a nonsensical dream, but not in the deep, unshakable bond we had built over 8 years. Sophia, I had a really strange nightmare recently. I finally decided to tell her my secret. I dreamed that you cheated on me, that you were with Liam. I haltingly told her about the nightmare that had terrified me for so long, recounting every detail, describing the agony and torment I'd been through. Sophia listened quietly, tears slowly welling up in her eyes. "Ethan," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were in so much pain." She hugged me tightly, as if trying to merge her body with mine. "I had no idea you were carrying all this. I didn't know that my every action was just making your fear worse." I held her, feeling the warmth of her body, and the darkness in my heart finally dissolved completely. "No, it was me. I was being too sensitive," I whispered in her ear. "I didn't trust you enough. I didn't trust us enough." Sophia's eyes were full of tears, but she broke into a smile more brilliant than I'd ever seen. "Ethan Hayes, you listen to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion but her tone leaving no room for doubt. "The person I love is you. The person I chose is you. The person I want to grow old with can only be you, and no one is ever going to take that away." I couldn't hold back any longer. I lowered my head and kissed her fiercely. The nightmare was finally over, and our love was still here. After a long moment, we pulled apart. "It's my own fault for falling for a big dummy like you so early on," Sophia said, a teary smile on her face as she gently patted my back, her voice full of loving exasperation. I took a deep breath, the air mixed with the scent of her hair filling my lungs like a warm current, chasing away every last trace of emptiness and anxiety. "Sophia," I raised my hand and gently wiped the moisture from the corner of her eye with my thumb, feeling the soft, warm texture of her skin. "Thank you for telling me all this." I looked into her eyes and said with all the sincerity I had, "But you have absolutely nothing to feel guilty about." She blinked her misty eyes, seemingly surprised by my reaction. I smiled, deciding it was time for my own overdue confession. "Actually, there's something I want to tell you, too." A hint of confusion crossed Sophia's face as she watched me, waiting. I held her slightly cool hand, feeling my own ears start to burn. "Last year, I went to a conference down in Austin for a business trip. At one of the networking events, I met a girl. I could feel Sophia's fingers tense slightly in my hand. I didn't look away. I met her gaze, laying everything bare. She was wearing a white dress and had her hair in a high ponytail. When she smiled, her eyes crinkled and she had these 2 little dimples. She looked exactly like you did when you were 18, the first time I saw you in the library. Honestly, I admitted, for a split second, my heart skipped a beat. It felt like time had rewound, and I was right back in that moment of first love. Sophia didn't say anything, just watched me. "But it was just that, a momentary flicker," I said, holding her hand tighter, trying to warm it with my own. "She wasn't you. She only looked like the you from back then. like the girl who made me fall head over heels. I looked deep into Sophia's eyes, speaking each word with absolute clarity. I might have fallen in love with you because of the vibrant girl you were at 18, but the person I love has never been just the 18-year-old Sophia. I love every version of you, from 18 until now. I love the college student who would argue with me about a math problem until she was red in the face. I love the young professional, fresh in her career, who would hide in my arms and cry after a bad day at work. And I love the fearless businesswoman who fought in the corporate world to build our life together. And most of all, I love the mature, brilliant woman you are now, my wife, who still knows how to be playful with me. We aren't perfect people. We both have moments of confusion and doubt. But it's that imperfect honesty that makes our love more real, more solid. Ethan, Sophia said suddenly, her voice trembling with a solemn weight. From now on, let's be more honest with each other, okay? Whatever happens, good or bad, we tell each other right away. No more hiding things. Okay, I nodded firmly. It was our pact. And her tone shifted, and she blinked playfully, a mischievous smile spreading across her tear-streaked face. The next time some young girl in a white dress bats her eyes at you, you have to report it to me immediately. She leaned in close, lowering her voice to a mock-threatening whisper. So I can go help you prune those stray branches. I couldn't help but laugh at how adorable she was. Deal. So what if some handsome, rich young guy confesses his love to you? Then she said, lifting her chin proudly like a little peacock, I'll reject him on the spot, in front of everyone. Then I'll come home and tell you all about it, just to remind you exactly how in demand your wife is, just to keep you on your toes. We held each other, laughing and joking, the last of the shadows in my heart completely gone. Outside, the night was dark, but inside our home, everything felt brighter than ever. Later that night, after Sophia had fallen into a deep sleep with her head on my arm, I quietly slipped out of bed and went to the study. The soft glow of the monitor lit up my face. I looked at the document I had created, the one that chronicled the so-called plot. The cold, hard text had been like a curse, binding me, nearly destroying the most precious thing in my life. I am not a puppet protagonist in anyone's story. I am just Ethan. I am Sophia's husband. And my wife, Sophia, is not some heroine from a trashy affair novel. She is my love, the treasure I would spend my life protecting. I moved the cursor over the file. Without a moment's hesitation, I hit permanently delete. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled, a million warm and real lives. And here, in our warm little home, we had the most precious thing in the world, each other's genuine love. It wasn't a love from a novel, or a movie, or any other work of fiction. It was the love of Ethan and Sophia, unique and unbreakable. Sophia's perspective. When I first saw Liam Vance, I admit, I was taken aback. There was a clean-cut, stubborn, boyish energy about him. It was like a breeze from years ago, instantly transporting me back to college. He was so much like him, like the Ethan who would argue with me in the library over a single problem, red in the face, but would still secretly save me a seat the next day. Because of that damned similarity, I found myself giving him a little more attention than I should have. I even caught myself unconsciously bringing him up in conversations with Ethan, praising his ambition and energy. I was lost in this nostalgic filter, acting like a fool, completely oblivious to how my big idiot at home was feeling. It wasn't until that night, when I received that text message with its obviously manipulative design, that I finally woke up from my self-deceiving fantasy. That's when I realized it all. The calculated concern, the coincidental appearances, the subtle hints. It was all so obvious. The man who bore a shadow of my husband's youth had a heart full of disgusting schemes. After clarity came a tidal wave of guilt and fear. I instantly understood why Ethan had been looking so exhausted and worried lately. It wasn't work stress at all. It was my fault. After so many years of marriage, he must have sensed my unusual behavior, sensed the presence of a predator. But I had been completely clueless, continuing to hurt him with my ignorance. I stared at the nauseating text on my phone screen, my heart aching as if pierced by 1,000 tiny needles. Not for that pathetic clown, Liam, but for my husband, my fool, who was heartbroken by me, but still pretending to be strong. I despised the scheming intern, but I hated myself even more. An intern could never hurt Ethan. The only person who ever could was me. I put down the phone, my heart aching as I hugged my foolish husband. I didn't know what to say, so I swallowed my words and just managed to tell him to get some rest. The next morning, when Ethan asked about Liam again, I immediately took the opportunity to suggest firing him. But that big dummy's first reaction was to apologize to me, to say he trusted me, That was his problem. He is so stupid. I was the one enjoying the ill-intentioned advances of another man, the one who was beautifying it with a nostalgic filter. I didn't deserve his unconditional trust. Even though Ethan said what he did, I was still firing Liam. I'm not an 18-year-old girl anymore. I can tell the difference between sincerity and an act. Besides, I have Ethan. This absurd farce had to end. When Liam walked into my office, that expression he probably thought was deeply affectionate still plastered on his face. I knew I wouldn't even have to come up with a reason to fire him. Sophia, there's something I need to tell you, Liam said, closing the office door, his tone becoming unusually serious. I put down the file I was holding and leaned back in my chair, watching him expectantly. Go on. He took a deep breath and began his carefully prepared confession. Sophia, I know this might sound sudden, but I love you. His voice trembled, his eyes filled with sincere emotion. From the first day I met you, I was captivated by your intelligence and beauty. Working with you these past few days has only made me more certain that you are the one I've been searching for. I listened with a blank expression, secretly shaking my head. Those empty lines were far worse than the clumsy love letters I wrote to my own stubborn man back in the day. I had no idea where he got his confidence. Sophia, I know you have a family, but I can also see that you're not happy, he continued, his voice laced with a I'm just thinking of you concern. Sophia, I know this is wrong, but I can't help but be drawn to you. I just want to make you happy, that's all. I don't intend to break up your family. I just want to be a shoulder you can lean on when you need one. His eyes were filled with pain and struggle, as if he were the great hero sacrificing himself for love. Are you done? If you're done, you can go write your own letter of resignation. I cut him off coolly before he could continue his performance. The expression on Liam's face froze. I studied the face that bore a slight resemblance to my husband's younger self. It was a shame. This face was tainted by calculation, far from the clean honesty of my husband's. Liam, my voice was calm, without a ripple of emotion. Thank you for your admiration. I have to say, you're a good actor. If I were still a naive girl in my early 20s, I might have actually been fooled by your heartfelt performance. A flicker of panic crossed Liam's face. But unfortunately, I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. I already have a love that will keep my heart safe for a lifetime. I can see his sincerity. But you, I looked him straight in the eye, speaking each word deliberately. I can't see through you. Your performance is too perfect. So perfect it feels fake. Liam started to say something, but I held up a hand to stop him. Besides, what if you were sincere? I already have one person's sincere love. I don't need the trouble of accepting a second. I stood up and picked up the office intercom. HR, please process Liam Vance's termination. Settle his final paycheck and any compensation according to policy. The color drained from Liam's face. Sophia, Liam, I said, turning to face him. You're a talented kid. I'm sure you'll find a more suitable job. But here, with me, you've crossed a line. He looked like he wanted to say more, but after seeing the resolve in my eyes, he said nothing. He simply turned and left my office. Watching him go, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. The ridiculous farce was finally over.